Thank you again for your wonderful response to my brand new comedy special, Shabby Chic, which is out now on YouTube. You can watch it right this instant for free. And if you would give it a mention on your social media, I would really, really appreciate it. What is my marketing plan? It's you. It's you. So please mention it on your Instagram stories, on your Facebook, whatever. Fire up MySpace. Find your MySpace password. Okay. You know what? Maybe that's the strategy. Maybe I should market this comedy special on MySpace, because that would be new. Like, people would be like, why am I getting an alert? I didn't know this account still worked. Listen, I'm open to all possibilities here. So let us begin by me telling you about the past 24 hours. As you guys know, my 12-year-old son enjoys creating World War I trench warfare with Nerf guns. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree in terms of eccentric hobbies in this house. He's a big history buff, and he's so fascinated with World War I. So he and his buddies like to do these trench wars. He's also a very independent kid. One of the things that Joe and I are big on is we encourage our kids to be very independent. Is it because we are lazy? A hater could make that statement that we're like, we have 6 kids. I mean, we can, and also having them so close together in age, it's like, it's a lot. There's a lot to do. Caitlin, you have 4 kids. They're pretty close together in age. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. And so it's not out of some high-minded, I read this parenting book that said that children need to be independent. I am raising my kids to be independent out of survival. It's like, because I don't have the mental bandwidth to check all of these little boxes and make sure everything's perfect. It's like, if we're going to get through this, you guys have to be really independent. Also, like, I have ADHD. I mean, it's a survival thing in this house. So pros and cons to having independent children, they just do stuff. And this son in particular, he ran it by us a couple months ago. He said, is so-and-so date good for the trench war? And I said, yes, that should work. We ran it by Joe. Okay. Nothing was in writing or anything. He was running around. He had 4 friends over. They're arguing over like Germany's role in World War I. And it was, a lot was going on. And we said yes. I thought, and my husband thought, I think dates were miscommunicated, because both Joe and myself thought that the trench war was 2 days from now. We found out last night that it is today. Oof. And I was already, last night, I was sitting there thinking, okay, the trench war is coming up at that time, it was 3 days. Like, this doesn't feel like enough time. I'm feeling really overwhelmed. We're going to have 25 boys over here shooting Nerf weaponry at each other in trenches. It's been raining on and off, might be a little muddy. I don't feel like I have enough time for this. And we talk about the flight, fight, or freeze response. I was going into freeze. I wanted to just cover myself with blankets and forget that any of this exists. And then my son comes up to me and says, hey, we need to do this for the trench war. And I said, oh, that's great. I'm so glad that you are getting ahead of the game. What excellent work thinking ahead. And he said, yeah, okay, well, yeah, I think it'll be ready by tomorrow morning. And we went back and forth a few times where I was thinking, well, great, having it ready by tomorrow morning, nice and early. And then when he said, the guys are going to arrive around 11, I was like, 11 in 3 days, right? He said 11 tomorrow. I cannot tell you the visceral terror that this filled me with. Also, did you think that's the only thing going on in my life? Of course not. It's anything that's going on with me. It's multi-layered. It's always, there's always something else. We had a sinus issue that I think was ultimately allergy triggered or something, or we just gave 25 kids a sinus infection. But a lot of us had just major sinus pain in the house. A lot of us did. And my oldest, his sinus infection spread, and it was really serious. They put him on heavy antibiotics. They gave him intravenous antibiotics. This was just yesterday. This was like yesterday morning. So we're talking about IV antibiotics, and then we find out the trench war is tomorrow. And then I'm not kidding you. I was simultaneously having a conversation with my youngest son and my oldest son. My youngest son is like, yeah, I think only 25 people can make it this time. I'll try not to get them to shoot the guns in the house. You know, sometimes that's just a little tough. What's the food plan? And then my oldest was like, by the way, these meds they put me on, I was Googling, and I think it might interact with, he has a pre-existing medical condition that's serious. And I said, did you talk to the doctor about that? He's like, well, I'm sure he saw it in my chart. And I was like, oh, okay, nope. We're not just going to assume that. So and keep in mind, I have 4 other kids that have stuff going on. And another kid's like, hey, can my boyfriend come over tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, see, that teens and boyfriends, that's a whole thing. All of these conversations are happening at once. And I woke up this morning. So let me back up. So I get most of that resolved last night. And then I forgot I had told Trench War Son that he could have a spend the night, that some of the guys could spend the night before, because they do a lot of stuff to prep. They have to make sure the trenches are properly dug out in the fortifications. I mean, they actually have bunkers that are historically accurate and all that. And so I'd said he could have a spend the night. And again, we have a loose house over here. It's funny when I talk to some of my youngest son's friends' moms, because quite a few of his friends are only children. And so their moms come in and they're like, now, what time is bedtime? Mm-hmm. And what, should we, do you want me to send over anything for breakfast? And I want to be like, look, this child is the youngest of 6. It's a different vibe over here, honey. It's not like there's bedtimes, meals. These are very fluid concepts in this house, very fluid concepts. I didn't realize that I had okayed him having 3 friends spend the night. And all 6 of my kids are here. The 2 are home from college. So, and keep in mind, I have a 1,900 square foot house. We live in a 1,900 square foot 3-bedroom house. So we have the 8 of us, my 6 kids, myself, my husband. And then we had the 3 friends spending the night. And I think, so I don't even know. I think one of my teenage daughters had her friend spend the night, but I'm not even sure. I can't remember if she took that friend home, because she's old enough to fend for herself. So I'm like, whatever, like that. I'm sure you guys are fine. So I think we had 12 kids in our 1,900 square foot house last night. And by the way, Caitlin, you've seen this in our house. Isn't it interesting how they're like hidden? You actually wouldn't know the way people can find places to hide in this house. It's like cockroaches scurrying when you turn on the lights. I mean, they can disappear. You're like, where did they all go? It's crazy. But the boys were downstairs and they built a fort in the front. I'm sorry, guys. It just dawned on me. They haven't cleaned it up yet. And it just, this is all descending on me, what I am facing after I'm done with this podcast episode. This might be a 3-hour episode, because I have a lot to deal with when we're done with this episode. Okay. So, this morning I wake up, and this is to let you guys know what kind of podcast host you are hearing from. That I'm not like the lesser podcasts you listen to where they're like, they spend 4 hours in peace and silence after they meditate, and they ground themselves in nature, and they touch the grass and whatever. I just want you to know who you are hearing from and what kind of life I am living. I wake up this morning early for me by my standards. It was 11:30 because I was actually going to pick up a couple of Caitlin's kids because Caitlin was busy. So I'm going down to her house to get her kids to bring them back up. And so I wake up. First thing is the family group chat the wheels have come off. Everyone has been sick. We've all been having a tough time. And has your family group chat ever had that happen?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, it's just, and especially when you were away, so you couldn't monitor it.
Yep.
And you open it and you're like, what? Whoa. This is like a Reddit thread that has gone off the rails. So I wake up, and you guys know I'm not a morning person, and I was up way earlier than I wanted to be. And we'll circle back to this. My son and his friends kept me up way late. So first of all, Pammy, who has guest produced this podcast, she was angry because our son who was doing the trench war kept them up all night. So JT he kept them up all night with the friends. And then, so I guess they're just living off of no sleep because the boys were back to waking everyone up at like 5 a.m., but they were keeping them up at 2 a.m. So I think they seriously had maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I did try to get them to go to sleep. For the record, we're not that laissez-faire around here. But at some point, it's like, okay, I have to sleep because like one of us needs to get sleep. So I told them to be quiet. But they had made this whole fort out of sheets that we will never get these sets of sheets back together again. And I couldn't even see them. And so it was just one of those parenting moments where I was like, if I can't see it, it's probably fine. I bet they're asleep in that fort. And I am now going to bed, and I am putting in my earplugs and the white noise machine, and I do not care anymore. So I wake up, I find out, alas, they were not asleep. They kept Pammy and the sister who she shares a room with awake, and then they started waking them up again at 5 a.m. So Pammy is in the group chat angry about that, like, well, thanks guys, like I got no sleep and blah, blah, blah. And you know how overtired kids are. So then the kids that my son who was up late was like, he had a few things to say in response to that. Then my oldest son, the one who's been sick, so he couldn't sleep because he's like in pain and his sinuses are messed up. This poor guy, he wakes up. I guess our cat had pooped a couple of different places, and this cat does not normally do this. This is not a normal thing, but there's like a bad moon rose over this day. This is the kind of day that would make me believe in astrology. Pisces is in Uranus for sure over this house because I'm not even done with what I woke up to. But this is not a normal. Animal feces is actually not a normal problem in our house. So, and my son, this particular son, is a real neat freak. He is not. This is not his thing, and so he is issuing edicts in the group chat. Edicts about, I'm so done with this. We're going to do this and that from now on. And like telling everyone in the group chat how it's going to be. And then so some of his siblings are replying, questioning his authority to lay it all out of like how this house will be run in the future. I don't know who cleaned up the cat situation. Somebody did. At least that was that was dealt with before I came downstairs because God knew that I would be a self-harm risk because I'll tell you in a minute what I came downstairs to. If there had been pet feces combined with that, I would have just left. I would have left. I would have gone to, what's a lovely place is Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's lovely. It's such an underrated city. Yeah. And I'm trying to book shows there, by the way. I'm working very hard on my Dakotas tour, hardest tour I've ever tried to book. But you've made it when you can tour the Dakotas. It's very, very hard to do. I would have just driven straight to the airport and gone to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and come back next month. It just would have been, I would have just disappeared. So luckily that was dealt with. So there's all this negativity in the group chat. And I'm just like, okay, I have to leave to get these kids. I'm like, okay, everybody just stop talking for a second. Like, just let me wake up. And because Joe had other duties, by the way. The reason Joe wasn't involved yet is because we were taking shifts. So he was taking an early nap to deal with kids later. So we were on my shift here. Okay, so I go downstairs. I have a high tolerance for mess, friends. I can block it out. I can just not see it. But there is a point when you're walking through an actual dumpster, like it's a true, like if you throw me in an actual dumpster, like out behind a restaurant, there is a point where I'm like, this is messy and gross and I'm really disgusted by it. That was my downstairs this morning. There were blankets strewn everywhere from the spend the night. The fort was partially demolished. So we have these sheets that I was like, oh, I didn't want them to use those sheets. Those are actually kind of nice. And they're wadded up in a corner. Probably the ones the cat pooped on. I don't know where that happened. It was probably on like the really nice sheets. Blankets wadded up in random places. And the type of guns that they use for their trench war they're actually, it's not Nerf. I think it's called Orbi. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, Orbi gun.
So they have these little circular pellets that they don't hurt too bad, but they're circular pellets. But so what's interesting about Orbi guns is they were actually created by an evil scientist who hates women. He hates mothers, and he was like, what can I do to make the average mother's life a real living hell? He was like, because he didn't even work for Orbi, the company. He was just a villain, a Gotham villain who was like, man, boy, do I hate mothers. And so here's what I'll do. I am going to invent a toy that is outrageously fun. Like so fun, you can't not shoot it in the house. It's just going to be so much fun. And but in order to get these little pellets that are also impossible to clean up, by the way, impossible to clean up. You try to sweep them. Oh no, they're just rolling right away from you. But they can also get ground into the carpet.
Yep.
So the evil villain says, you know, what sends every messy house over the edge into the government's probably about to get involved territory? And I know the answer is probably on the tip of your tongue. You're like, is it, well, animal feces? We already covered that, actually. You know what it is? Wetness, water. And that's what the evil scientist did. He was like, you know what I'll do? I'll have these little pellets that get everywhere and are impossible to clean up. They're a little bit smaller than a pea. So hard to clean up. And they just shoot rapid fire, like pop, 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 rapid fire. He said, I will make it to where before you have to use them, you soak them in water. Because then you will have young boys sloshing around these massive containers. Oh, by the way, no more Tupperware. Like my Tupperware, no more. Like if I have a roast I'd like to put in the freezer. No, I no longer have Tupperware that can be used for that because it's all used for these Orbi pellet things. So he was like, yes, we'll have a bunch of boys in the range like 8 to 15 years old sloshing around massive Tupperware containers that have water and spill out everywhere. So, and also I had gotten some sodas for the trench war that the spend the night kids got into, and one of them had spilled a little bit and they tried to clean it up, but some was still on the floor. So we have sticky soda on the floor, random puddles of water everywhere. Some overlap with the blankets that they used to sleep, and then the sheets that they used for the fort that they made to sleep in. And you're like, well, Jen, at least it couldn't get any more chaotic than that. Would you believe me if I told you that the boys started a game of Monopoly that had spread? You can't make this stuff up. I have pictures. I have photographic evidence. So evidently they started playing Monopoly at 7 a.m. That was maybe my biggest issue with the whole thing. I'm like, that's just not right. That's not right to play Monopoly in the morning. No. Monopoly is an evening game. I don't make the rules. It's just how it is. Monopoly is an evening game. So I walk downstairs. This is 9:30 a.m. and they are well into a game of Monopoly, and all of the Monopoly money is spread out and the board is spread out, and I'm like stepping in something sticky and looking for the cat poop, and like some of the money, the Monopoly money is wet, and I'm not sure what is wet. Like, is it maybe it's something from the cat, or maybe it's soda, or maybe it's water. That was this morning, guys. That was like 10 hours ago from the time we are recording this. So when I tell you that other podcasters could never. And so we ended up having 25 boys over for the trench war. I had to feed all them. And then, as you know, I always do podcast dinner night. Like when we record the podcast, I do dinner. And then that's Caitlin and her crew and my crew. I've lost count. I don't know how many people that is, but it's somewhere between, it's in the 30s, I think, the number of people who I fed today. Your favorite podcast host could never. So if this podcast is like, if I seem more unhinged than usual, if I seem more distracted than usual, I do sort of know what the main topic will be, but if there are a couple extra tangents than usual, we all need to go with that, because everything I have told you was today, as we record this today. So welcome to the Jen Fulwiler Show. This is the podcast where you learn the art of the village hustle. Boy, am I living that. That is being a hot girl boss, or hot boy boss, who knows that love and family and community are the foundations for all true success. This podcast is available wherever you follow your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If Google still does podcast stuff, it's there. It's on your podcast apps. And of course, it is also available on YouTube. We also do a new thing where in the show notes, we link to this exact episode on YouTube. So if you want to switch over to video to see the pain on my face as I describe the Viking saga that is my life, you can do that. You can easily click over to YouTube. We are coming to you from Austin, Texas. Caitlin White is our lovely producer. And don't forget to sign up for the Patreon. That is where I do bonus content. We do a lot of fun stuff over on Patreon, and you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/thisisjen. That is patreon.com/thisisjen. Patreon is just a platform that allows creators like myself to offer bonus content, that paid content, so that I don't quit in disgust because I'm not making enough money. So that is the service that Patreon provides. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Hit the unexpected subject alert. I was just thinking, I'm very proud of my son with everything he did with the trench war. It was chaotic, but I want to make it clear. I'm very proud of the whole thing. And while the boys were playing Monopoly, they were really getting into a lot of details about World War I. That was this battle the definitive battle, or was this battle, and just this general and this guy and Prime Minister so-and-so or whatever. I mean, it was mind-boggling. And one thing I want to put out there is I don't make my kids read. I am not wed to one form of education versus another. And there's this there's this idea, especially in my demographic, very common in my demographic, that everyone thinks it's a flex if your kids are readers. I think the flex is if your kids are interested in the world and care about learning. And if they prefer to learn in a video format and an audio format, who cares? That's a flex. That's cool that your kids are interested in things. And I don't understand forcing your kids who are not really into reading to spend the hours this summer reading books that they don't want to read. If they would rather watch a video to learn about things they're interested in, who cares? If learning is learning, I just don't see how it matters. And I often think of my dad. He, in my lifetime, from the time I was born and on, he was a big reader. And I've said before, I come from a big reading family. Well, guys, also, I've written 3 books. I mean, my income to this day depends on people reading and being into the written word. Joe, Mr. Education. I mean, Lord knows he knows a few things about reading. So we're a pro reading family. In my family growing up, what we often did on the weekends was we would just laze about in the living room, and my mom and my dad and I would just read, just silence. Like, that's the family I come from. Just uptight white people being in a silent house all weekend. Like, that was the family that I came from. And I remember I would just read book after book after book, and so would my dad, and so would my mom. But my dad once told me that he actually did not get into reading until his late 20s. And he said that he has very vivid memories of trying to get into reading when he was a teenager. And I remember he said, it's like my mind just wasn't wired for it. I mean, evolutionarily, like, young men are not wired to be, sitting there, like, if you look at cavemen times, like, to be carving in stones. It's like, no, you need to be out hunting and conquering and doing that sort of thing. I mean, you're a young man's mind, I think, is, many of them, not all of them, but many of them are just not wired for reading. And here's, I think, the mistake that we can make as parents. If you force your kids to read, I think you're going to make them hate it. And luckily, nobody ever forced my dad to read. So he didn't read a lot when he was growing up. Other than in school, I don't think he read much ever. I mean, maybe the occasional, would they have Hardy Boys or something? But he really didn't do a lot of reading. And then suddenly he developed a love for it in his late 20s. And then in his later years, he strongly preferred audiobooks. Man, he devoured audiobooks. It was like a new book every week, but in the audio format, not reading. So he commented that he thought it was really good that nobody forced him to have reading time, because he was neutral to the idea of reading. So he really gravitated to it as his brain chemistry changed. Was it? They always say the prefrontal cortex develops. As that changed, he was much more into it. And I remember, my parents sent me to this. It was like a camp in a lady's house. I was 9 or 10 at the time. Not a positive experience. Whatever license she had should have been taken away. There were a lot of problems at that place. But she was big on reading, and so she would force us to read. I actually almost got kicked out of her little camp because we had to go get books from the library, and they would monitor to make sure we were actually reading. And so she would have, like, one of her daughters was like the warden of this camp that we went to, and her daughter would look at the page numbers we were on and make sure that we were reading sequentially so that we weren't just staring at a book. Even in my 10-year-old mind, I was like, look, if someone hates reading that much that they literally want to just stare at a page, just call it. It's just not going to work out. But I remember that I used to read a ton as a child. And I remember I stopped reading for fun that summer because I just associated it with annoying people trying to control how I learn. And I started to have really bad associations with reading, and it made me not want to read. So my son and his friends are experts to an insane degree on so many things. It's not just World War I. I think I told you when one of my high school age daughters had to do a map for her world history class, and you just have to recreate it from a book. And my son walked up and was like, "Oh, here, do you want me to draw that for you?" And he was like, "Wait, what century is this?" And she was like, It's 300 BC, I don't know, Peloponnesian something or other, or the Greece, that area, and Macedonia, all that. And he was like, and he drew it from memory. And then we compared it to the book, and it was like accurate. It's like, here's where the Thebes is, and this is where the Battle of Thermopylae was. And after that, the Persian army actually went, to this place and that. I mean, insanity. And I might not be saying the details right because I'm not the expert on 300 BC Greece. All of this he learned from video, not from books. So don't make your kids do a bunch of extra reading this summer. Like, encourage them to learn, encourage them to pursue knowledge about things they're interested in. But I think especially with boys, they probably are going to gravitate more towards videos. And you'd be amazed how they absorb information like sponges. Like they're walking encyclopedias when they click in with the type of learning that makes sense for them. And my experience has been, I had 25 12-year-old boys at my house today. My house is Grand Central Station for boys in that late elementary school, junior high age range. And my experience has been observing a lot of these kids that they do better learning from video than from books at this particular age. So that is my little rant about not making your kids read. Speaking of reading, I paid $350 to get high quality Spanish subtitles for my new comedy special, Shabby Chic, available on YouTube now. Because I don't know, I just want, I'm honorary Mexican. My dad grew up in Mexico. I feel like, it would be muy bueno to have quality Spanish subtitles. And I know someone has commented on YouTube a couple of times. Appreciate that. One of my 5 YouTube viewers is from Monterrey, Mexico. I will do a show there. We will absolutely do a show in Monterrey. So now, if you have Spanish-speaking friends, actually, the other thing is that we do have a few friends that their English is not, it's not their first language. They do much better in Spanish, and so I have really good subtitles. These are not the auto-generated subtitles. I have very nice Spanish subtitles for my special Shabby Chic, and the translator gal, she said I should call it in Spanish, let's see, romantico rustico, is because there's not a direct translation for Shabby Chic, but I guess in Spanish it's rustic romantic, which is much better. That's rustic romantic. That is so much better than shabby. Why does English say shabby? That's why I called the comedy special that, because I think it's a funny combination of shabby and then chic is a elevated, elegant word. But yeah, rustico romantico, with my amazing Spanish accent here. I should teach lessons. It is, I thought that was great. So go check out Rustico Romantico. You could just click on the gear icon on the YouTube special, and when you click on the gear icon, it will ask if you want Spanish subtitles, and you can turn those on. I'm very excited about that. So share with your friends who want to consume my content in Espanol. Okay. Oh, there's so much. Where are we on time? Okay, I think I have time to hit all this. The winner of the U.S. Open golf tournament. Did you hear anything about the U.S. Open, Caitlin? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the U.S. Open was this weekend. I love this story. The guy who won, JJ Spaun, first of all, he was not expected to win, but the night before he won, his family was traveling with him, and his daughter got really sick. He had to go to the drugstore at 3:00 in the morning, the night before he won. So let's listen to, there's a TikTok account called the Shot Clock, and he does good coverage of this guy, JJ Spaun's win. So let's take a listen.
This is straight out of a movie. Imagine you've never won a major. You lost 40 pounds between 2017 and 2021 to drop all the way to 584 in the rankings. Then you kept losing weight and were misdiagnosed with type 2 diabetes, only to find out 2 years later it was type 1 instead. And then after overcoming all that to become a top 25 player. Fast forward to today on the...
Okay, so did you hear? He was 584th in the rankings. That's I mean, honestly, if I were number 15 with my negative mindset, I'd be like, time to hang it up. Nobody cares about what I do in this sport. 584. And then I know you guys can hear it, but this guy's talking fast. I mean, I just want everyone, I know you listen to this podcast while you are multitasking, because the people who listen to this podcast probably heard about my morning this morning and were like, that's
totally.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, like Kayla knows, she's like, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's yeah, I've had multiple days like that in the past week. They thought he had type 2 diabetes, and it turns out he had type 1. That's very serious, very difficult thing to go undiagnosed. So then we get to, again, this is the Shot Clock on TikTok. So then we get to this thing with his daughter. Okay, hit play.
final day of the US Open on Father's Day. You have to make a 3 a.m. run to CVS because your daughter's throwing up. And after all that, with all the pressure, with everything on the line, you hit this putt to win $4.3 million and your first ever major and US Open.
Pull this up on YouTube and watch this. It's unreal, this putt. Look at this. Even if you're not into golf, this is unreal. There's no way. That ball went in a C shape.
Making that putt was under 2%. Bro hit a 64-foot putt to win the US Open. Not even Warner Brothers could have written this script. And to take it even a step further, this wasn't some easy golf course either. Oakmont is like the toughest course in the world. He was the only player who shot under par. And that's what makes sports so great. JJ Spaun is your US Open champion. You couldn't write a script better.
Just because the quality of this podcast, it just goes up and up exponentially with every episode. So again, we do the thing now. There's a link in the show notes to this exact episode on YouTube. You can click on it. So if you want to see this incredible shot he made, see what JJ Spaun looks like, all that, you can see. That's a video that we just played, and you can click through and see it on YouTube. That putt was insane. That was a C. Yeah. That was a C. I mean, it was like the letter C. Like it did not go in a straight line. Here's what I want to say with that. It's funny. I'm trying to stick to my inspiring point about how God blesses, children and openness to life. But there is part of me that is like, I mean, like if I had a big performance the next day and we were traveling and a kid was sick, I mean, I would be looking at my husband like, really? I have to go to the, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm working. This is a work trip. I mean, we'd like be getting in a fight. Like, that's what the news would be covering. She got in a fight with her husband at 3 a.m. So I mean, I'm trying to keep to the inspiring point, but I'm like, what was his wife doing? Okay, never mind. It doesn't matter. The other thing is, I mean, if I have a big thing, like when I filmed my first comedy special, the whole family was out there. I stayed in a separate hotel. I did. I'm like, you people's problems is not my problem. Listen, I'm doing a big shoot here. I got one take to get this right. That was with my first one, also a one take special. So I wouldn't have been in that hotel room. I wouldn't have even known that the kid was sick. But let's set that aside and keep with the inspiration. Okay. God blesses openness to life. And the world would tell you that having kids holds you back from your dreams. And wouldn't that make sense? If you're a golfer, I mean, the more time you can spend on golf, the better. So a kid is that's less time. But why wouldn't it be a downside to have kids? Why wouldn't you be at a disadvantage? Well, one thing is, with any passion that you are pursuing, having kids, it just gives you that extra boost that you want to inspire them. You want to show them what's possible in the world. And so you are likely to try harder. The other thing that I see in my own career is when you have kids, you just don't waste time, because anything you spend time on is taking time away from your kids, which is fine. That's very normal. We all have things going on. But there's just this feeling of like, I'm not wasting time. When people book me on shows in Austin, it's very good for me to be on shows. I'm actually on 2 shows this weekend. And but if they're only going to give me 5 minutes of stage time, I'm not doing it, because I'm busy. I have a family. Whereas if I were 22, single, just messing around, I probably would. I would drive across town for 5 minutes of stage time. So I do think it makes you focus on your craft and become a professional more quickly. Stephen Pressfield talks about turning pro. He has a book called Turning Pro. And I think that having kids, it makes you turn pro, where you're like, okay, this isn't a silly hobby anymore, because I just don't want to waste my time. I like in my career, I don't want to just sit around in a green room and just talk about nothing, and all the people, they're hotboxing the green room, and then like I do not like that. That is not my thing. That's a waste of time, unless if I'm getting a lot of stage time, honestly, like that's probably what will happen this weekend. But if I have enough stage time, it's fine. But suffice it to say, you don't waste time. So that is the first thing. But The second thing is sometimes when life throws us a curveball, especially if it involves taking care of your children, but even for those of you who don't have kids, just any kind of curveball, there is a temptation to spiral. For me, spiraling is an Olympic sport. It doesn't take much for me to go all the way from this, I didn't sleep well last night to somehow that will lead to I'll have no job, my career will be over. And it ends with I will die alone soon next week. The way I can spiral is crazy. The connections that I can make to this small event being just the end of my livelihood in my life it's impressive. It is honestly impressive. So when curveballs like that go my way, it is very tempting for me to start my Game of Thrones narrative about how I could have had success, but now never have success because I needed sleep because I have a big event tomorrow. Now I'm not getting sleep. And that I will sit there, I will perseverate, and I will fixate, and I will spiral. And it has only been in recent years in my life that I've learned to not only chill out, not only kind of let it go, but realize there might even be an advantage to this. For example, last night I didn't sleep well because of the endless spend the night, my fears about the trench war. And this podcast is always a little punchier when that happens to me. So, there can actually be advantages to those frustrating things happen. That let's say you're trying to go for a big interview and your car doesn't start, or you're going on a date and you have your look together and a downpour starts right as you're heading out. It is tempting to spiral. It is tempting to start the narrative that this is I could have had a shot at this working out, but now it'll never work. I can't emphasize how important it is to let go of control. Let go of your plan and not only accept, but embrace the fact that whatever went wrong might actually even lead to a more positive outcome. So in the case of JJ Spaun, I mean, that putt that he made, again, pull it up, click through on my YouTube, that putt that he made was truly insane. And I have to wonder if he were less tired, I think, because these golfers, they got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. If he did a 3 a.m. run, I don't think he slept the night before. Maybe he slept a few hours before the daughter started throwing up at 3 a.m., but he was punchy for sure. And I think you have to be a little punch drunk. You have to be a little not in your right mind to be I think I can make it. I think I can make this putt. It was, what did they say, a 16-foot putt or something? It was a long putt.
64 foot.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Thank you, Caitlin. 64 feet. That is
insane.
That's from one side of the downstairs of my house to the other. I think we measured our living room one time and it was 12 feet or 14 feet or something from one wall of the living room to the other. I mean, that's a long putt. And again, if you look up the video, it was on a hill, 64 feet on a freaking hill. If you got a good night's sleep, you're I'm screwed. I'm just screwed. I'm screwed. There's no way. This is an impossible putt. But if you have been up all night, you're cleaning up vomit, life is a haze, you don't care anymore, you're exhausted, you're just screw it, I think I can do it. This is the click, fine, here, hit that ball, it's fine. I think that he might have made that putt because his daughter was throwing up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So remember that next time you have something that does not go according to plan, remember that especially if it involves being open to life in some way or another. If it's your grandmother calls you because she can't sleep in the middle of the night, or one of your kids is sick or something, just remember you might be surprisingly blessed by this, and it might be in surprising ways. So don't forget that. Okay. You know what has an absolute chokehold on me is there is a trend on TikTok where these women say, okay, so it's strong women. It's like aggressive kind of women. And they have boyfriends who are into gardening and plants. And their boyfriends have just kind of a soft essence to them. Just they're not like tough like the women. So these couples are absolutely cracking me up. I need to stop describing it and just let you hear from them. I say again, click through, the link is right there in the show notes. It will bring up this episode 259, and you can see, you have to see these women's facial expressions too. Okay, play the first one, Caitlin.
So we back because my boyfriend want to tell you about the outside plants, and he gonna tell you all about some good weeds. Come on, boo boo.
Yeah, so this one right here is called milkweed. I planted it because
Look at her
it's good
face.
for the endangered monarch butterfly. If y'all don't know, the butterfly is endangered and it lays its eggs on the milkweed, and then when the caterpillars hatch, they eat the milkweed and then put their cocoons on it. So since it's an endangered species, the milkweed's really good for helping the species recover.
Good job, boo boo. Now get you some milkweeds, plant them, butterflies. Now clap.
Okay, now how amazing is this? Like, okay, first of all, where I need someone like that for my content.
Yeah.
Like I need someone, maybe like Caitlin, you as a friend can be like, Jen's gonna post a stand-up clip and you're gonna leave a comment and say, this is funny. What I love is these girlfriends stand in the background and glare at the camera. They are watching you. They're like, did you hear that? Milkweed. That's right. Are you listening? You listening? So Caitlin, I would love for your head to be floating in the back of a stand-up, just like you don't scroll. Don't scroll. You leaving a comment? And okay, so this next woman, okay, you've got to pull this up on YouTube. You have to watch her face as her husband is talking about his plant. She's like, I mean, she is ready to fight you. I swear she can see me through the camera. I swear she can see me through the camera as her husband or her boyfriend is talking about his plants. Listen to this one.
My boyfriend wants to show you his plants, and you better say they're cool. Let's go, babe.
Hi. So I have a starter of thyme and rosemary right here. I've used some of the
Her
rosemary
face.
that's been cut down, but it's still growing back very well. And I have a lot of this English thyme that I used to cook. It's really nice, but I think it needs its own thing at this point. So come back for your next episode.
You better leave a nice comment.
Okay. You know what? When the comedy millions come in, Caitlin is tough. You might not see her and think she's tough. She is. She was a corrections officer. Like you said I can say this on the podcast. You have been tased voluntarily.
Yeah, we played the video before.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. And okay, I just wanted to make sure. And it was voluntarily. It wasn't like, boy, that was a wild night. Should not have had that third shot. Am I right? Like, yeah. No, it was part of the corrections officer. She was like, I'll be tased. Do you know how much money I mean, for me to be tased? Like, are you kidding me? You're the toughest. So listen, this is someone who volunteered to be tased. So here's what it's going to be. When the comedy millions come in, what you just saw this woman do with her boyfriend talking about his plants, Caitlin will stand on stage at all of my tour shows. Even if I'm in a big theater, people will be like, why is the blonde woman back there? And Caitlin will be nodding her head like, you listen, yeah. And if I deliver like a great punch, like let's say I'm in Wisconsin and they don't want to laugh, Caitlin will be like glaring at each person like, did you hear that? I'm sorry, is her mic on? And Caitlin can interrupt the show and take the mic from me and be like, I don't think you heard this funny woman. You better laugh. It's a whole vision for me. It is a whole vision. Okay. I do have a point to make, but yeah, I have one more video. I can't stop. I can't stop playing these videos. Oh, by the way, the first and third videos are from Misfits and Matcha. That is their TikTok account. And that second one that we just heard was Yearning Yardies. Again, I want us each to imagine having this person in our lives. When you present anything out to the world, I want you to imagine having this person in your corner like this. And then I'm going to take it a super weird and borderline inappropriate and nerdy and just like nobody's brain works like this direction. So that'll be fun. Okay, so play the third video.
So my boyfriend's been working on growing his plants, and he want to show y'all, so y'all gonna listen up. Come on, boo-boo.
Yeah, this one's a dragon plant. I got it because it grows really easily indoors. It's got a pretty like lemon lime looking leaves, and it's air purifying. My girl got some allergies, so you know, there's dirty air here too, so I gotta get this to clean the air inside.
She's glaring at the camera.
Good job, boo-boo. Now y'all better comment, like, and share, and get you, what's this called?
Dragon plant.
A dragon plant.
Now that I've seen this, I'm like, why does anyone create content without someone doing that? I just see the vision that Caitlin's like, my friend is going to show you her stand-up comedy clip, and you're going to leave a nice comment, and you're going to like, and you're going to share. And then she'll be in the background just glaring at you while the clip plays. But I've been tasered. You think you're going to mess with me? I've been tasered. This is the secret to content creation. I think that is what we all need to do. Okay, now, here's the bizarre direction that I'm going to take it. These are definitely non-traditional relationships in the sense that the women are very, very strong, and the men are they have a little bit of a sweet, soft, vibe. The women are definitely the strong ones. And you know what it called to mind? I have no small amount of unresolved trauma from my years way deeper in the Catholic ghetto than I should have been. I mean, again, it's not so much the Catholic ghetto. It was the Catholic blogging ghetto. Never has there been such a supernova of mental illness combined with religion being bastardized to cover everyone's their own unresolved trauma. And but I was a new Catholic, so I got influenced by stuff like this. And what made me think of it is there were definitely people back in the day, and still some podcasters to this day, who would say that is not, you can't live like that. The man has to be the overtly strong one, and he has to be working out and posting his workouts on Instagram, because that is truly the hallmark of masculinity, and as mirror selfies after a workout. And he should be talking about guns and big trucks and hunting, and that's what men should do. And women should wear skirts, and they should never have a job. Like if they make their sourdough bread and someone pays them $5 for it. Oh God, no, you can't, because that would be a woman having a job, and that's not, she's got to be homesteading. And did I already say wearing skirts? And
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Caitlin was in the duck and cover position, because it's all, these opinions are so terrible. It is. It's hard to hear them. So I knew a surprising number of people who would have that take. And I still, because the algorithm likes to rage bait me occasionally, or maybe the algorithm just wants me to have a good podcast, because it will serve up this content with these people who posit this worldview that, again, women should never do anything other than cooking, cleaning, and raising children, that is against their nature. Usually they bring Christianity into it. And I think for some of these people, I think Christianity is a means to an end to be weird. It's because they've found some Bible verses that can make that work. So, and that the man should always provide for 100% of the income, and that, again, hunting, trucks, whatever. And it's always disappointing, because I always click on these accounts and I'm like, who do I know who follows this weirdo? And it's always like, really, you follow this nonsense? And by the way, hit the caveat alert. I'm actually not talking about accounts like Ballerina Farm. She's like a self-made millionaire. I just bought some of her like protein powder because I need more protein. $80 for a little bag of protein powder. But they treat their animals really nicely. I mean, they give their cows like a back massage as they're milking them. It's, I mean, probably. I
imagine.
Yeah. So I don't mean accounts like that where people are living their lives and bringing you into it and showing you the positive sides of that setup of she does a lot of traditional baking and things like that, and just like keeping her multi-million-dollar business kind of under wraps there. And her husband does like typical guy stuff, the more heavy duty work on their farm. I am not talking about people like that because they don't moralize about it. The Ballerina Farm couple, they're just, they're just showing you what they're doing, and they're like, you could do whatever you. We don't care. But this is our life. I'm talking about the weirdos who always end up in my feed, who were like, if you want to honor your feminine, your husband has to always make all the money, and you have to wear skirts, and you have to bake and clean, and like that's what you should do. Here's the salient point that I want to get to. And again, this is my boyfriend wants to show you his plants videos. This is what I think about when I see funny and charming content. Think about what I'm about to say, because you'll find that it's true. Whenever you see people who are legalistic about the way themselves and others should live, that they want check boxes, like a to-do list, like check boxes of the woman does this, the women do this, and this, and men need to fill out these check boxes. He's hunting, he drives an F-350 truck, he's talks about guns on Instagram or whatever. And again, you see it a lot in the world that I came from. These people love writing fan fiction about Catholic teaching. I mean, they're like Tolkien. They're like C.S. Lewis. Their imagination, the sky's the limit of the stuff they can make up and claim is binding historical Catholic teaching on all people. It's really, I mean, honestly, they should do some like Hunger Games fan fiction, right? They should keep it going. They could make a lot of money. So whenever you see people who have made up these very legalistic box checking ideas. By box checking, meaning you have a checklist of things that men and women are supposed to do, and you're a good person if you have checked the proper boxes. Whenever you see people who are living like that, and it doesn't have to be weird Catholics. There are other weird people on the other end of the spectrum. Like I saw this a lot when I worked in the tech world. They go to the other extreme, that women would lecture me and tell me that in order to be an independent woman, you must split the household chores 50-50 with your man. And if he touches one less dish than you do, then you are no longer an independent woman. So it's all spectrums have this in all walks of life. You see it with the ice bath guys. A lot of those guys would say like, I don't consider myself successful. No man can consider himself successful unless he goes to the gym 5 times a week and makes $300K a year. This is all box checking. Here's what it's about. They have unresolved trauma with having meaningful connections with other people. And the reason they want their lists, or to use another analogy, the reason they want life to be paint by numbers, so that that no one has to think or interact. It's just, if you see number 3 on the color chart, you paint that color there, and you don't go outside of the lines. The reason they want that experience is to shield them from intimate human interactions with other people, because they've been traumatized at some point in their life, and they have learned that dealing with other people doesn't tend to work out well. It leads to heartbreak and difficulty. And so these rules that they largely make up of how people are supposed to be living protect them from other people. They protect them from intimacy. That's really the word I was getting at, intimacy. They're terrified of human intimacy. And that is why they need these rigid rules and the boxes that they can check. Like, I know that I am being a good woman because I made 3 loaves of sourdough this week. I wear only skirts, and I only care for the children, and I have not made $1 since I've been married, and whatever. Like, I do all this other stuff. We homestead. I wrestled 5 filthy animals this week to get milk and eggs and all that. So I can check those boxes. So I know I'm a good woman. And that's all I need to do. I don't need to do anything else to figure it out. But here's how life really works for people who want to actually live a rich, full life. There are certainly some general ideas about, if we're talking about marriage and family, about feminine energy and masculine energy. Like, Christianity historically has said, like, women should be submissive to men should be the head of the household. And so there's some truth to that. There's some guidelines that the men and women are different, and it's weird, and it doesn't work if you try to say that they are perfectly interchangeable. But the way it works in the real world with real people who want to live real, rich lives and have authentic connections to God is they accept those things as true, those basic ideas as true. And then just through deep, authentic connection to God and to their spouses and even to themselves, they just figure it out. So let's say in these couples that we've seen with my boyfriend wants to show you his plants. Look, if you see these women and you see these men, there's just not a world where the guy is going to be out hunting with his Ford truck and his 5 guns. And he's like, you woman, you stay home. Like, he'd get thrown through a wall if he tried to do that. Like, this is not those guys' energy, and it's not the woman's energy. But they could figure it out. Like, for example, letting the husband be the head of the household. Maybe in that family, it could look like, they're leaving Sam's Club, and the husband gently says to the wife, like, hey, honey, I would like for you not to punch that lady in the face. She did cut in line. No, I heard, yes, she did cut in line, but I am asking as your husband that, could you put the weapon away? Yeah, so let's put the weapon away. Don't punch her in the face, actually. See, and that's an example of he could be the head of the household in that way. She could listen to him, but there's still honoring that the energy that each one of them have individually. And I was thinking about how Joe and I have worked things out over the years. We've been married. I know you're supposed to know this. Whatever. We got married in 2003. What is that? 22 years this year. And we've had 6 kids, and our roles have shifted significantly. When I was in the middle of having 6 babies in 8 years, it was real traditional over here. Joe made 100% of the money, and I was writing my books and I was doing other stuff, but I was raising the kids, and it did look very traditional. Everything at home was me and all of that. And I will say that as things shifted, when I started, my book came out and it did well, and then I was talking to SiriusXM, this was a pretty rapid shift, and a big shift that happened rapidly. And it was a little bit of a plane going through turbulence. There was a little bit of figuring it out. And it took a lot of just difficult moments and tough conversations. And there were some arguments about, well, I wasn't doing the stuff that normally I did, and things just weren't getting done. And then I would be like, well, I don't feel supported in what I'm trying to do, whatever. This is very common when roles shift and evolve in a marriage. But because we as a family always seek authentic intimacy, not only with each other, but with the kids, like, we really listen, and we sit in that fire, and we are there for those painful moments. Like, where I've talked about how our kids sometimes will give us feedback, like, it really hurt my feelings that you did this or that, or that, I really didn't like this aspect of my childhood, or whatever. I mean, they've said stuff like that to us. And it does feel like sitting in a fire to just let them express that and be like, okay, Okay. All right. I hear that. Let's talk about how we want to move forward from this. And Joe and I went through that as a couple, and we've gone through that with the kids. And that's the thing is, it's not easy to experience deep human intimacy, to work out gender roles and marriage and who makes what money. How are we going to get these bills paid when, both of us have passions, have things that we'd like to do, our blue flames, but sometimes your blue flame doesn't make that much money, or sometimes it does, or like this person has an opportunity to make a lot of money, but it takes a lot of their time, and just figuring all that out, and who's going to do what with the kids so that they have the right energy that they need from their mother, which is an irreplaceable role, and the right energy they need from their father, another irreplaceable role. How are we going to figure all that out? It involves some painful moments. It involves hearing painful things, and it involves taking your emotional intimacy with the people in your house to just a whole different level. Now, contrast that to the paint by numbers people. There's one way to be a woman. There's one way to be a man. There is one way to raise children. Frankly, it goes back to some of this reading stuff too. As the right way to raise children is they have 2 minutes of screen time per day, and they don't have phones until they're 28, and they have 8 hours of reading time today where they can read only the classics. That is also box checking. That is also being afraid of, like, I might not do it right. I might mess this up. And it's easier to just go check boxes and just ask, to follow the rules of what everyone on the Well-Trained Mind Facebook group is saying. I'm sorry, I trash them all the time. I've got to find a new bogeyman to trash. Don't worry, there are a lot of people that I hate, so don't worry. I'll find other people to use as an example. But it's easier. It's psychologically easier to say, like back in when I was coming up in the blog world, like, oh, I'm scared about raising these kids because I don't have an example from this. And this blogger posted a list of good mothers who want to raise good Catholics do this, this, and this. And it's like, wow, do I have to get chickens? Like, okay, we're really weird. But it does give you this piece where you think, oh, well, now I can just check boxes. And I can skip the intimacy. I can skip the hard conversations. I can skip the moments where I screwed it up and I'm seeing that I have, caused pain in this person who I really love. I can skip all that because I can just check these boxes. So next time you hear someone telling you how to live and putting the cart before the horse, meaning some guidelines of the idea that men and women are different, mothers and fathers are different. There are some Christian ideas about masculine energy and feminine energy, and these are all good and they are to be honored. But people who, again, put the cart before the horse and all they want to do is focus on the rules that you could write down in a perfect list, which, by the way, is like oddly tailored to 21st century living. It's like, okay, so none of this would have worked in the year 1325. People who do that, they are terrified of human intimacy. They are running from trauma, and they want a paint by numbers life because they are afraid of really living. So don't listen to them, and dang sure don't let them make you feel like you're doing it wrong if you're not checking the same boxes that they check, because probably you're actually living and you are actually experiencing real human intimacy where you and your spouse and your kids are all figuring it out together in a way that allows everyone to explore some passions, somehow get these bills paid, and honors everyone's, masculine energy, feminine energy, and follows the Christian ideals. You're probably doing that the right way by seeking genuine intimacy and all of the painful trial and error that comes with it. How is the podcast? We don't know. We can't figure it out. So we have a team of scientists studying it. Join my Patreon, patreon.com/thisisjen. Don't forget to hit that like button on my comedy special when you look up Shabby Chic or Rustico Romantico on YouTube, hit the like button. And I will be back with you next week here on the Jen Fulwiler Show.